Creating films is an unbelievably complicated process with tens of thousands of decisions that need to be made to go from idea to final film. Everything from ideation to writing to finding subjects or casting actors, all the way down to actually producing and shooting it, and then editing that film into its final form. And that's the point where you're about halfway done. Then you actually have to release it. But that's just the actual process of making a film, and it doesn't even mention all of the tools and gear you need to get the job done. If you're just starting out, the complexity of everything you need to know when it comes to cameras, lenses, stabilization, tools, batteries, and everything in between can be pretty overwhelming. And then those individual tools have their own level of complexity. Don't even get me started on Sony's menus. For me, I am always looking for ways to simplify my job whenever possible and using the minimal amount of gear to get the job done. If there is a piece of gear that allows me to do a part of my job in such a way that I don't even have to think about it, then I'm going to highly consider adding it to my workflow. And today, that's what I want to talk about. Gear I have started using recently that has simplified my working style in both small and big ways. If you're new here, my name is Curran Sheldon, and I am an ASC award-winning cinematographer, an Oscar-nominated and two-time Emmy-winning filmmaker. I started this channel to relay what I have learned in the past 12 years as a self-taught filmmaker, whether that's career advice, process tips, and the tools we need to get the job done. I am currently working on a collection of documentary lighting videos and courses, so subscribe to this channel to be the first to know about those. Let's get back to gear that has simplified my life. First up, I want to talk about power. Now, one of the biggest pain points when you're making a film is the amount of batteries you need to charge. Your camera battery, your V-Mounts for your lights, your Sony NPF, perhaps your microphones, they all potentially take different chargers. So the number one piece of gear that has simplified my life is batteries that can be charged by USB-C. If I'm buying a new battery, I want to make sure it's being charged by USB-C. So this here is the CoreSWX Nano X. It is often the case that you'll have to use a lot of these for larger cinema cameras that really suck power. You just pop that open, stick your USB-C cable in. Smallrig has these great new Sony NPF batteries, also have a USB charger on them. And then a lot of the new mini microphones, like the Hollyland that I'm wearing right now, also can be charged via USB-C. But the big ones that have started to do this is definitely your camera batteries, your monitor batteries, your light batteries. These are the things that can take up a lot of space with their chargers, and so it's so nice to have all your stuff being charged by USB-C. So you have a bunch of batteries that are being charged by USB-C, and so the next item that has really simplified my life to such a beautiful degree is this bad boy right here. It's a big, chunky charger, but it charges everything. This is a 200-watt USB-C charger with 6 ports on it. If I'm charging all these different types of batteries, I can just fill these ports with however many batteries I want. Plug them in and let them charge. Shoop. Also, I have some really long cables. I don't really like these. I have shorter ones that I usually travel with, but these were in my office. So we're using those today. Beautiful about this is because it has 6 ports, you can charge a lot of different batteries, where historically I would have to bring a charger for my V-Mounts, maybe a big 4-bay charger, which would take up probably 6 times the space of this one alone. But now, not only can I have 4 V-Mounts charging at the same time, I can also do a couple NPFs, maybe my accessories, and so this has greatly simplified my life. I used to have to set alarms to wake up to put different batteries on charge for the next day's shoot, and now I just plug them all into this 6-bay USB-C charger, and I don't even think about it. I just go to bed, and now I can sleep more. I'm happy about that. Next on the list is an item. When I first saw it as a Facebook ad or Instagram ad or something like that, I thought, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But I then became a YouTuber. So here I am, and this became useful. And so this is the Zacuto Micro Boom Arm. What the Zacuto Micro Boom is it's a boom arm for your microphone that connects directly to the top of your camera with a NATO rail, and then you can extend it out to get the microphone closer to the speaker. I can see this being great for one-man band type shooters where they're interviewing someone talking directly to camera. I've done a lot of that work in the past. Probably more importantly, and where I think this thing will sell pretty well, is this exact setup that I have now. I'm doing a YouTube video, I'm talking directly to camera. My camera is far enough away that a microphone on the camera probably wouldn't look that great, but now the micro boom can get this little microphone pretty darn close to my mouth. And if I was using a wider angle lens, it could be even closer. And now it probably sounds pretty pristine. And so that is really, really helpful, because the alternative is I'll set up another stand with a boom pole and another sandbag and have a lot more gear to carry around to do a simple talking to camera video. The Zacuto micro boom looked pretty dumb when I first saw it, but actually it's pretty awesome and very useful, so highly recommend. All right, sticking to the YouTube theme, often when I'm doing videos where I'm relaying career advice, sometimes videos like this, I will use a teleprompter. It's easier to write, easier to edit if I can just go in one round. See, right now I'm not using a teleprompter, so this is a disaster. And for the longest time, I've been using a pretty large, bulky teleprompter, which I have to screw my camera into and then use an iPad. And instead, I've changed to this little Parrott Teleprompter, and it has made my workflow much easier. It attaches right to the lens, makes it really easy to set up. And because I'm using an iPhone instead of an iPad, I see my eyes sort of darting around a lot less, which I think always looks a little strange on a YouTube video. Another great thing about the Parrott Teleprompter is this little controller here. When I was using my older, larger teleprompter, if I ever messed up and wanted to go back up and do a section over again, Elliot or myself would always have to reach up and scroll up and then push play again, and it just lost a lot of time. But with this little controller, I can now control the Parrott Teleprompter up and down really easily just by pushing up and down on these buttons. So if I flub, make a mistake, just push these little buttons up and down and it just starts going again. And so this has also been a huge time saver when making YouTube videos. All right, next up is this guy, and that's the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. And I love this little camera. Not only is the image quality great, but it has made it so much easier to shoot behind the scenes stuff for our YouTube videos. Often when we are on jobs, Elliot is acting as AC and I am acting as DP, and so he has work to do. So it's pretty hard to have a second cinema camera on location for him just to shoot behind the scenes materials. But this camera is so small, so light, so nimble, and has a gimbal built into it that we can get easy, smooth, behind the scenes footage, and he can stick this sucker in his pocket, no problem, and be able to just pull it out, get 10 seconds of behind the scenes, put it back in his pocket, and get back to work. It has really simplified our life in terms of figuring out how do we shoot behind the scenes footage while at the same time doing our job that we were actually there to do in the first place. Maybe if this channel ever has any return on it whatsoever, then I will just hire another person to come shoot footage. But until then, Elliot or myself is using this little Osmo Pocket 3 from DJI. Awesome camera. One thing that I have been asked to do quite a bit more recently as I DP 2 feature docs and also have done some commercial work is provide a director's monitor. The problem with director's monitor is there's really only one option, or historically has only been one option, and that's the small HD and Teradek combo. And the reason for that is because the Teradek has a transmitter that sits on your camera, and then the director's monitor, usually a 7-inch monitor, and the receiver is all built into one device. And so it's really streamlined, everyone uses it, every rental house has it. The problem is it's like $5,000, where unless you're getting paid to rent that out, which sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, it's a little bit cost prohibitive. But one company has done a really good job in creating a more affordable option to the small HD and Teradek option, and that is Hollyland. Now, for a couple years, Hollyland has had the Mars M1 Enhanced, I believe it was called, but they have just released a new series, which is the Pyro series, and that comes with a beautiful 7-inch monitor. And I think for director's monitors, 99% of people out there prefer a 7-inch monitor. And it's really simple because the entire system is built into one monitor. So this is a receiver, this is a monitor. They've put little screws on each side where you can actually attach handles, and that is one of the most important things because the director's got to be able to hold this without actually putting their hands on it. And this goes directly in your camera and shoots a signal to this, and that's all there is. The nice thing about this system as well is it can send to multiple devices. So you could send to 2 or 3 of these and have a director's monitor, a producer's monitor, an executive producer's monitor. Whoever wants to show up that day, you can send them a signal, and that's also very, very handy. And finally, the very cool thing about this system that even the small HD and teradek option does not do is that this can also be a transmitter. So if you bought 2 of these, then the person operating the camera could use it as just a normal on-camera monitor, but it could also transmit to another one of these the director could be holding and watching what the cinematographer was shooting. This is important for a few reasons. One is it eliminates a lot of cables, right? It eliminates another item that you have to put on your rig somewhere, making it heavier and more cumbersome. And so having this as both a transmitter and receiver is incredibly useful. Props to Hollyland for finally giving some competition to Small HD and teradek and saving us all about $4,000. So this is the DJI Ronin 4D. I've used it a couple times on some commercial shoots, but recently pulled the trigger and bought it because it is the main camera on a feature dock that I am DPing. And this camera, I think, is really starting to take off. It's starting to catch people's attention. The ability to get that gimbal Steadicam look with no bounce in a package this small and this streamlined is pretty incredible. But that's not the only reason I love this camera and not the only way it has really simplified my life. I'm going to quickly go through just some of the things that this camera can do and the way that it's built to show just how much easier it is to use than, sort of the alternatives out in the market. First up, obviously, is the gimbal itself. If you're doing a shoot and they want that smooth footage, often I will have a camera that is always on a gimbal, but that's more cost, that's more setup time, and shooting on a gimbal is not always the most conducive way to get the shots that you need. You gotta put a follow focus, another monitor, lots of cables, lots of batteries, lots of different things that you need to actually make that setup work. But the gimbal here is already built in, and so it's already part of the package. The second is the monitor is beautiful. It's a 5-inch monitor, so it's big, it's bright, and I don't need to buy another external monitor in order just to see what I'm shooting with my main camera. And right now, DJI has a pretty incredible rebate going where if you buy either the 6K or 8K version, you get this transmitter, which is just this module here stuck on the back, plus the director's monitor for free, as well as an E-mount. But the transmitter and director's monitor is really the big selling point here. And when we talk about Hollyland or Small HD and teradek, this is the other big player in the field that sort of fits price-wise in between the two, but coming with this camera for free right now is pretty incredible. It is really nice to have such a seamlessly integrated transmission system. And there are so many other things this camera does that just makes your life so much easier, from the media being USB-C, to the modules with timecode and XLRs, to the battery system and the way those batteries charge. And so I love using this camera. It gets you incredible results. Image quality is fantastic and is now probably my favorite way to streamline my video process. All right, so there you go. There are some pieces of gear that I've added to my setups to streamline my workflow and just make everything just a little bit simpler. When things are simple and you're not worried about gear, then it's easier to get great looking images. Besides the items I just mentioned, is there anything else in your workflow that has simplified the way you work? If so, please leave a comment below and let me know, because I will probably adopt it, because any way I can simplify, the better. As Henry David Thoreau once said, simplify, simplify, simplify. And we'll see you in the next video.